Joining us now is Andrij Dobriansky. He is with the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Andrij, thank you so much for joining us this evening. During a visit to the U.S. this week, Ukrainian President Zelenskyy made his case for continued aid to support his country's war with Russia. This comes as a Republican opposition for more military aid continues to mount. And Thursday, President Biden pledged more than $300 million in new aid to Ukraine, but then asked for more than $24 billion in aid to Kyiv back in August. So do you think President Zelenskyy made a good enough case to continue to get U.S. aid to help in the counteroffensive?
I think you see a change in strategy, perhaps, but definitely a forward-facing change that we see from the Ukrainian leader. Obviously, the last visit had a big speech in Congress, had much more public events. This time, you saw him go behind closed doors with a select group of senators and talk for an extended period of time about exactly what is happening. Thankfully for President Zelenskyy and the people of Ukraine, a decent amount of senators have actually gone to Ukraine, and that includes Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, who was actually in Ukraine this week while Zelenskyy was traveling to the U.S. So it's all about making sure that everybody knows what the stakes really are when they're talking about this, as opposed to transitioning, as unfortunately we are already transitioning into a 2024 campaign cycle.
Well, what does President Biden have to do to get Republican lawmakers to continue to support Ukraine? There is a lot of opposition.
Well, let's just make it very clear for everybody. The problem with what's happening in Congress today isn't so much blaming it on Ukraine or blaming it on any other issue. It's clear that there is an issue with the Speaker of the House trying to put a simple budget together, even a continuing resolution. That is not happening. When we heard the letter from the White House in early August asking for supplemental money, both for emergency FEMA-related issues as well as for Ukraine, that was because they were forward-thinking in terms of what the budget request will be. And frankly, we've often had at increasing levels requests for emergency funding for FEMA every summer for the last several years. But the problem does rely on Congress. You saw that twice a simple rules agreement couldn't be passed in Congress. And so what I will warn people is to basically look back at the earlier budget conversation we had in the spring, where President Biden just sat back and waited until Speaker McCarthy was ready to negotiate a deal with him directly.
Well, Andrij, Ukraine launched a missile attack on the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet on Friday. It's one of the perhaps most significant attacks on Russian military operations since the start of this invasion. So what does that attack say to you about Kyiv's confidence that they can, in fact, defeat Russia?
Well, I'd like for the people in America who are watching there or anywhere around the world who are watching and simply maybe monitoring maps and trying to see how far Ukraine is going in one direction on a particular vector military-wise, that the playing field is a lot different than the Korean War, World War II, or anything else that people may have studied. Here we have a multi-vector attack, not just the armored vehicles coming through the lines of defense, now breaching the third line that Russia had been vaunting for a long time. But Ukraine has systematically started to take apart the surface-to-air missiles, the defense system that they had in place around their fortifications. That allows for greater and greater access for Western munitions like those Storm Shadows or the Scalp system from France to attack those areas like the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet, or even for the first time sinking a submarine. This is again, Ukraine does not have a functional navy on the level of Western countries, and they sunk a high-level submarine of Russia.
Yeah, I believe they're using those sea drones, correct? Well, what does the attack?
Yes,
what does the attack we were just speaking about, though, say about Russia's weaknesses?
It means that Ukraine has been systematically, step by step, making sure that there are more weaknesses to take advantage of. This is what we see on the ground in Kherson, in Zaporizhia, in those attack vectors where now we've broken through the third line, and now we're seeing armored vehicles, the kind of which Ukraine was saving, actually coming into to being deployed even further. So similarly, what I mentioned earlier, the attack on the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet doesn't happen without the weeks and weeks of determining through intelligence and also probing attacks where these surface-to-air defense systems are, and then eventually destroying them.
Great points. Andrij Dobriansky with the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.